All right, we're gonna go to this moment, the strength of competition.
Yeah.
Since AJ went first, Ryan, strength of
All right.
competition.
Go. Ooh. I mean, them 80s teams that Jordan faced was hard, man. So let's just take a look at a few of them. So you talked about how Isaiah was cutting up Michael Jordan. Isaiah Thomas cut him up. That team, that was an all-time great team. And really that team could have won. They could have three-peated, like I said. They had Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, Isaiah Thomas. Who else? I already said that. Mark Aguirre. But let's just talk about that style of play they played with. They were an extremely aggressive and rugged team. They were kind of like how the Detroit Pistons were in that 2004 championship team when they brought it back. It was hard to win. In the 80s, it was a lot of rough teams because it was a lot of elbows thrown. It was a lot of just calls that were not being called at the time. The refs called the game a lot differently than they did today and then they do today. So Isaiah Thomas, I know that they even mentioned like that one time when Magic Johnson like hacked Isaiah Thomas, and I don't know, really he could have got suspended for that, but that just wasn't allowed in LeBron's time early on. Well, just into the game today, that's not even allowed in the game today at all. So the Detroit Pistons, that was a great team, not because they had the best players, but because of the style of play they implemented. And that was always going to be a hard team to beat, because at that time you were allowed to get away with a lot of like hand checks, a lot of hand fouls, hand fighting, and it's just extremely difficult to get your shot off when you have guys that's all over you, that's pushing you, and can get real aggressive in the paint, and the referees won't even call like techs and stuff like they do now. And at the time, it was just a different era, really. A lot of the players would throw elbows in the slide. The cameras were around, but it's not as high definition. Now, if you see like a lot of players, if you see someone like elbow or someone mentions an elbow or something, they can go to the monitor and check it. But at the time, that wasn't really, like replay and stuff was not really a part of the game. So they could get away with a lot of stuff back then, really on the sly. If you look at that Lakers team, that was an all-time great team. That was probably the best Lakers team of all time. The 80s Lakers team?
Oh, am I saying something? I can't say anything.
Oh, you can't? That Lakers team with Magic, James Worthy. Ooh, let's see who else. Yeah, Magic, James Worthy. It's just they had so much, that Showtime Lakers team, they had so much physicality as well, but they played with a lot of finesse and a lot of style as well. Yeah, Kareem, AC Green, a lot of this, and Byron Scott, a lot of that was difficult at the time because of the massive number of players he had to go against and compete with. That's just really hard. That was really on par with LeBron competing with Golden State, but to a greater degree, because they had a lot of Hall of Famer caliber players on that Lakers team, and you just can't beat them at that time. They were really like the darlings of the NBA at that time, so that's extremely hard to compete with. And then that Celtics team, that was a lot of people consider that team like a top 5 or top 5, top 10 team as well. Because you had Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. Let's see. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale. Yeah, Danny Ainge, Robert Parrish, Bill Walton.
Dennis Johnson.
Yeah, Dennis Johnson. Exactly. I mean, those were those three teams I listed were basically super teams. And if you look at LeBron James' competition, the only team that you could say that he faced was a so-called super team was that Celtics team. That was it. No other competition he faced was so-called a super team. That's it. And that's right there. I just named 3 teams he had to compete with that had basically at least 3 to 4 Hall of Fame caliber players on the team. Maybe even more than that. You can go ahead.
All right. I'm gonna rebuttal what you said first, and I'll go on what Brian did. Just so I remember. First off, you said he never faced the Lakers in the 80s. He couldn't get to the finals, so that's a moot point. You can't use him as a team that he had to face.
I mean, but
he never made it there.
I'm just talking about just competitively.
They never competed.
Okay,
they can't.
Okay.
When they did compete, it was old Magic Johnson and the old James Worthy. Kareem had retired. It was HIV Magic, you know.
Even if they did get there, still would have been a hard.
And I was
thing.
looking up the records of the teams that you were saying were super teams. The Detroit Pistons in 1889 won 54 games. Well, yeah, 1989. Thank you. We weren't allowed to play in 1889. In 1989, the Detroit Pistons won 54 games. That's a super team to you. You said they got 3 to 4 Hall of Famers?
They do, yeah.
Who? When?
Joe Dumars, Isaiah Thomas. Bill Laimbeer
is not a Hall of Famer.
He's not a Hall of Famer, but he's Hall of Fame caliber. That's why I said.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Look up his stats.
It doesn't matter about stats. A lot of people won't put him in the Hall of Fame, but they'll say he was an integral part of that team.
They put anybody in the Hall of Fame if you barely even decent. They put Yao Ming in the Hall of Fame for 5 years of playing. There's a reason why Bill Laimbeer is not in the Hall of Fame. He was good at was fouling and beating up players. That's not Hall of Famer. They had 2 Hall of Famers, Detroit.
I'll tell you what, is Draymond considered a Hall of Famer?
No.
There's a lot of people that would disagree with that.
That's why I'm glad I'm not a lot of people.
There's a lot of people. He's kind of like what Draymond is.
And that's not a Hall of Famer.
Draymond is still going in the Hall of Fame.
Bill Laimbeer's
whether you
not.
like it or not.
But Bill Laimbeer's
eventually he might.
Let's move on from the Detroit.
All right, we'll keep going.
That's a 54-win team. Then I looked up, let's see, I went to the Lakers because I think that's who they beat, right, in 91. I think they won 9 games? That's, like I said, that's our old Magic and old James Worthy. I'm just going to the teams they beat. Then in 92, I looked it up, and it was the Portland Trailblazers, which had 1 Hall of Famer, Clyde Drexler. That's a super team? I don't think so. Then we go to 93. The Phoenix Suns, they won 62 games and lost 20 games. They had 1 Hall of Famer, Charles Barkley. That's not a super team. Then we go to 95, where he lost to Shaquille O'Neal, 1 Hall of Famer. Then we go to 96, where he beat Sean Kemp and Gary Payton, 1 Hall of Famer. Then we go to 97, where he beat 2 Hall of Famers, and 98, where he beat 2 Hall of Famers. So wherever I've never seen him beat a super team. He never won a game against a super team. To be honest, he got swept every year against Boston. That was the only super team he faced, and he got swept every year. So then I'm gonna go to LeBron, who has beaten.
I forgot about Golden State and Spurs.
Spurs had 4 Hall of Famers when he beat them in 2013. He lost to them in 2014.
Yeah. But was that really a super team though? Was that Spurs team a super team? I forgot to mention the Warriors. That's a super team.
They're much better than the teams that Jordan beat. Let's be honest.
I don't know about that.
You see who they beat that year, right?
Was that team better than the Pistons though?
But you saw who they beat that year. To say they're not a good team, they beat not just the Miami. They beat the Thunder. They beat Golden State when they were still young. That was a good team, and they went back-to-back years to the finals. So
it was a solid team, yeah, but that was not a super
They're much
team.
better than any of the teams Jordan beat in the 90s.
Oh, my God.
None of those teams could make it to the finals more than 1 year besides Utah, and you're going to tell me Utah was better than the Tim Duncan Spurs. Those teams made it to the finals once and were never seen from again. They had 1 Hall of Famer. The West was weak in the East. Weak back then, like how y'all say the East was weak now. And the East wasn't that strong then back either, because we look at the competition in the East. Let's go through the teams. The Knicks had 1 Hall of Famer, Patrick Ewing. The Bulls had 2 Hall of Famers this whole time. All the other teams only had 1. The Pacers had 1 Hall of Famer, Reggie Miller. Let's keep going. Who else was in the East? The Cleveland Cavaliers with
Brad Daugherty.
Brad Daugherty. What's the what's the white guy's name? I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be racist. What's the they always show.
Think of it.
That's who he hit the shot on, like that shot they showed. Craig Elo, that's his name.
Ooh, I don't even
They
know
had
him.
0 Hall of Famers. That's what that's one of his moments, beating the Cleveland Cavaliers. Who else was in the East?
But they were all in the NBA.
I'm saying we're going over competition though. These are
Yeah.
1 superstar teams, and they had 2 superstars and the best player on the team, so they should win. They shouldn't go get 7 games. I don't know why they went 7 games with the Knicks. That don't make sense. The Knicks were scrubs. Patrick Ewing's not even a top 20 player.
I say all that to say it was a different era, though. You could get real physical in the night. You can't deny that.
But just because you can foul don't mean you're a good team. Just because you can beat up on somebody.
Yeah,
doesn't
but
make you a
it
good
does
team.
it does much more than go towards skill. That has it has a big psychological impact on the team as well. Whereas you can get away with some stuff by fouling and pushing and stuff like that, and that could have a big impact on influencing whether you drive in the next time you get the ball, whether you just pull up and shoot it from the outside if you're scared, scared to get fouled. So
That doesn't make the level of competition better. And when we go to Bron,
okay,
like I said, he beat the Spurs. That's 4 Hall of Famers. Then he beat Golden State, which, by your own words, is 3 Hall of Famers because you think Draymond's a Hall of Famer. So that's a super team and the best team record-wise that we've ever seen in the NBA. Then let's see, he lost to the Spurs when they had 3 Hall of Famers. Same way that Michael lost to Boston when they had 3 Hall of Famers.
but I want you to think out the East. Everybody says that LeBron has been to the East Finals so many times.
I'm glad you brought that up because
Yeah.
he beat 3 Hall of Famers to get to the East Finals.
One time.
I'm trying to find the time when Michael did. You know
One
how many
time.
times Michael's done it?
0 times?
0.
Okay.
You know how many times he's beaten?
I'll give you that one.
Let's see. I'm trying to figure out the team in the 90s that had 2 All-Stars in the East. Can you name me? I can't figure it out.
I don't know. I wasn't around then like that.
I mean, even the Detroit Pistons that he beat in 07, none of them are Hall of Famers, but they were like 4 All-Stars in that game that year that he beat them. That's an accomplishment. I know they like to say the East was weak, but he beat some pretty good teams. And he lost to great teams. The only team he lost to that wasn't great was Dallas, and that's his moment of weakness. So if that's what you want to go at, I mean, you can go there, but it's one moment in time.
Yeah. But still, how did he get to those finals in the first place? I'm not trying to
Because he was a bad boy.
I'm not
That's
trying
why.
it to be. I'm not trying to have this as like low hanging fruit, but if he had stayed on Cleveland all that time, maybe it was management, maybe it was the general manager, the owner, or whatever. Would he have ever gotten to that level that he is now if he did not go assemble a super team in Miami with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh?
He would not, because there was already a super team in the East he had to compete against.
Mm-hmm. So he had to match super teams. He
Yes.
went from super team to match super teams. But
He
Jordan,
had to get an All-Star.
Jordan
Yes.
organically built his level of competition.
Oh, you sound like an old man.
No, he built it up organically. He stuck with him the whole time, built it up, stuck with it, stayed the course, and he defeated everyone organically.
So it's LeBron's fault that Cleveland couldn't draft an All-Star like Scottie Pippen.
No, it's not his fault.
So
but
what are you saying
sometimes
that
you got to
he did it
deal with what
organically?
you got.
He dealt with it for, 7 or 8 years?
Yeah.
That's not dealing with it.
I mean, they
It
got
took
to the
them
finals one time.
By himself. He couldn't get one All-Star. They couldn't get him one All-Star. You can't blame him for leaving.
Mo Williams was an all-star.
Oh,
You got
killed
that
me.
right.
And Mo Williams, he was nasty, you know. I had the Mo Williams jersey in my wall every night. And I was like, man, if only I could play like Mo Williams, man.
Yeah, I had
Just
this poster.
just trying to,
I know. We needed that.
All
What year was he an All-Star? What was that?
what was that?
09?
That was 09, I think.
He was an All-Star in 09?
I think so.
That's crazy.
Was that when Antoine?
Williams
was that
wasn't
when
bad, though.
Antoine Jameson was on the team too.
Yeah, that was his last year. Yeah.
You forgot he played with Shaq, even though it was only for a short amount of time. He's
Man,
played with
Shaq
some
was 85 when he played.
He
Don't
was
even do
old.
that, man. He was
He's
305.
He's played with some good
390
players
pounds,
though.
man.
He's had some good players help
When he
him
got to
along the way.
Miami, which you're trying to say is his fault for like developing a super team, he did the same thing Michael did. He just had to do it himself. There's nothing, and that's not a problem. Don't be like the old NBA players. I would have never went to get a super team, and they did when they got older. It just bums that they didn't win. Like Charles Barkley says, I would have never did that, but he went to Houston.
Charles Barkley is a hater.
He went to Houston when he was like 35 and
Yeah.
still lost. That's why
He's
says
a
that.
hater. That's true. Man, I ran out of steam.
All right, you guys think you got that? So just let's do closing statements real quick, and then we'll get word from. Actually, was there any fact check stuff that we got for that?
In 2009.
No inaccuracies found on our part. You guys are doing great.
All right, thank you.
Keeping it civil. I like it.
Thank
Try
you.
to.
Thank you. All right. So, who went first last time? I forgot. I think it was Ryan.
Yeah,
Mr. Ryan over
AJ.
here.
All right. So AJ, you get to close us out with yours, and then Ryan will close us out with his.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming through. I'm not going to say a lot. I'm just going to keep it simple. LeBron James is the best player of all time. If you don't believe me, you never will. I'm through.
Ryan.
All right. So, Michael Jordan, he's the best player of all time. Defensively and offensively, superior than LeBron. He utilizes everything, all the skills he's been given, and he's maximized it to the best of his ability. He is the peak of athleticism, peak of human conditioning. He has reached and ascended to a level that not many athletes have reached. So, for that reason, I think Michael Jordan is the best. And he's a lot better than LeBron. Always will be. And always will be. So, thank y'all for listening.
All right. So let's get a final word from each of the three people in the control room.
What would you like?
Just tell me what you guys thought.
Thought it, well, for the most part, very civil, very organized, and very structured. I think both parties had great points, and we'll let other people decide who won this.
Oh, don't be PC. Y'all know I throw them up, man. Don't do that.
All right. What did Luke and Kirby think?
You know, I thought it was a fair fight. At some points, I thought AJ's faces. I couldn't control my laughter. I'm gonna be honest, they were killing me. He had a lot more points. He had a lot of stats to bring with him. But Ryan also had some good points. But talked himself into some circles sometimes, but it's okay. Overall, though, I think it was a good conversation, a good debate, and a fun time was had by all.
I don't know anything about basketball. Just straight up, this was like 78 minutes of just continuous conversation about things that I had a vague recollection of who these people are. I have no stake in this horse. I hope it was a fun and engaging conversation for you two.
Stake in this horse.
You know, that's actually, what is that? That's called a malady? Is that there's some kind of thing whenever you splice metaphors together intentionally. That was not intentionally. That was me just messing up. I might kill that horse. Whatever, it happens. But yeah, no, it was fun listening to you guys. I learned something. Whether or not I'm gonna retain that begs the question. But yeah, continue on.
I have to say, our mediator, I feel, was a little biased at some points.
Thank you.
A little biased. He was supposed to say impartial, and then he was dropping Mo Williams out of nowhere.
Whoa. So you're saying I was unbiased towards Michael Jordan?
I'm just saying you were biased on both parties at some points. You could make an
I was
argument
trying to
for
balance
either.
myself out.
Trying to balance. You know, you could have just kept it at even 0. But other than that, it was just a little bit. You did great.
Oh, man.
All right.
All right, Austin, back to you.
All right, man. All right, thank you guys so much, both of you, and then everyone listening too. Thanks to everyone to control room. Darian, the producer, the man. All right, thank you guys so much. I'm Austin Hinton. That's Ryan Monroe. That's AJ Dunn. Let's get out of here. We're ready to go.